Hola chicos, ¿qué tal? ¿Qué tal el fin de semana? Bueno, espero que bien, que habéis tenido tiempo para hacer otras cosillas, no hacer solo cosas del cole. Así que bueno, traemos hoy un nuevo vídeo, hacer un storytelling. Algunos ya sabrán lo que es un storytelling. Un storytelling es pues un contacuentos. Entonces vamos a contar un cuento que va a ser en inglés y vamos a hacer como el otro día. A partir de este ratito que lo estamos explicando, ya todo lo demás será en inglés. Okay, so this is the book. The title is The Spiffiest Giant in Town. So before we start reading the book, I want you to tell me what can you see in the cover. I don't know, I can see animals, I can see some very big shoes here. Stop the video and try to think what the book is about, okay? Chicos, una cosita más antes de empezar, os van a aparecer ahora en pantalla algunas palabras que necesitamos saber antes de comenzar la historia. Son palabras que a lo mejor no hemos oído en inglés o que puede ser que, como no estamos frente a frente, va a ser un poquito más difícil entenderlo y que entendáis mis gestos. Así que vamos a poner unas pequeñas aclaraciones, algunas palabras, el significado, para que después en la historia nos sea más fácil ir entendiéndolas.
Spiffy, someone who looks good in appearance, well dressed, elegante. Scruffiest, something that is untidy or dirty looking, descuidado. Gown, a long dress, bata o camisón. Mice, the plural of mouse, ratones. Campsite, a place where people can stay in tents, campamento. Bog, an area of ground that is very wet and soft, pantano. Coziest, comfortable, making you feel relaxed, cómodo. Kindest, someone who is generous and thinks about other people's feelings, el más amable de todos. Sleeping bag, a warm bag that you sleep in at a campsite, saco de dormir.
George was a giant. This is George. The scruffiest giant in town. He always wore the same pair of brown sandals and an old patched up gown. This is the gown. It's the clothes that you wear for sleep. I wish I wasn't the scruffiest giant in town, he sadly said. He didn't like his clothes. But one day, George noticed a new shop. This is the shop. It was full of spiffy clothes. So he went inside and he bought a spiffy shirt, a spiffy pair of pants, spiffy belts, a spiffy striped tie. This is the tie. Some spiffy socks with diamond on the sides, and a pair of spiffy shiny shoes. Now I'm the spiffiest giant in town, he said proudly. George left his old clothes behind in the shop. He was about to go home when he heard a sound. On the sidewalk stood a giraffe who was sniffing sadly. "What's the matter?" asked George. "It's my neck," said the giraffe. "It's so very long and so very cold. I wish I had a long, warm scarf." "Cheer up," said George, and he took off his striped tie. "It didn't match my socks anyway," he said as he wound it around and around the giraffe's neck. It made a wonderful scarf. "Thank you," said the giraffe. As George strode toward home, he was going home, he sang to himself, My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe. But look me up and down. I'm the spiffiest giant in town. George came to a river. On a boat stood a goat. This is the goat, who was bleating loudly. What's the matter? Asked George. It's my sail. This is the sail, remember. It's my sail, said the goat. It blew away in the storm. I wish I had a strong new sail for my boat. Cheer up, said George, and he took off his new white shirt. It kept coming untucked anyway, he said as he tied it to the mast of the goat's boat. It made a magnificent sail. Thank you, said the goat. Now the goat has a new sail for his boat. George went home singing to himself. My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe. My shirt's on a boat as a sail for a goat. But look me up and down, I'm the spiffiest giant in town. George came to a tiny ruined house. Besides the house stood a white mouse with lots of baby mice. These are the babies. What's the matter? Asked George. It's our house, said the mother mouse. It burned down and now we have nowhere to live. I wish we had a nice new house. Cheer up, said George, and he took off one of his shiny shoes. It was giving me blisters anyway, it was hurting. The shoe made a perfect home for the mice, for the mouse and the babies. George had to hop along the road now, because he only had one shoe left. But he was happy and he was singing to himself. My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe. My shirt's on a boat as a sail for a goat. My shoe is a house for a little white mouse. But look me up and down, I'm the spiffiest giant in town. George came to a campsite. Beside the tent stood a fox, this is the fox, and he was crying and crying. What's the matter? Asked George. It's my sleeping bag, said the fox. I dropped it in a puddle. I wish I had a warm, dry sleeping bag. Cheer up, said George, and he took off one of his socks, look, the enormous sock, with diamonds on the sides. It was tickling my toes anyway, he said, as the fox snuggled into the sock. It made a very fine sleeping bag. Thank you, said the fox. George hopped on, singing to himself. My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe. My shirt's on a boat as a sail for a goat. My shoe is a house for a little white mouse. One of my socks is a bed for a fox. But look me up and down. I'm the spiffiest giant in town. George came to a big squishy bog. Beside the bog stood a dog. What's the matter? Asked George. It's this bog, said the dog. I need to get across, but I keep getting stuck in the mud. He wasn't able to keep walking. He was stuck. I wish there was a safe, dry path, a way for the dog to go across. "Cheer up," said George, and he took off his spiffy new belt. It was squeezing my tummy anyway," he said as he laid it down over the bog. It made an excellent path for the dog. "Thank you," said the dog. The wind started to blow and blow, but George didn't mind. He hopped on singing to himself. "My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe. My shirt's on a boat as a sail for a goat. My shoe is a house for a little white mouse. One of my socks is a bed for a fox. My belt helped a dog who was crossing a bog." But look at the picture. What is happening? Let's see. "My pants are falling down. I'm the coldest giant in town." He was very, very cold. Suddenly, George felt sad and shivery and not all that spiffy. He stood on one foot and thought, "I'll have to go back to the shop and buy more new clothes." So he turned around on his way to the shop again. Poor George. But when he got to the shop, it was closed. There was nobody at the shop. "Oh no," cried George. He sank down onto the sidewalk, and a tear ran down his nose. He felt as sad as all the animals he had helped before. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he saw a bag with something familiar, something that he knew. "My gown!" He found the gown. "My dear old gown and my sandals." George put them on. They felt wonderfully comfortable. "I'm the coziest giant in town," he cried, and he danced back home along the road. He was happy with his old clothes, after all. Outside of his front door of his house stood all the animals he had helped before. They were carrying an enormous present. "Come on, George, open it," said the animals. George untied the ribbon of the box and opened it. Inside there was a beautiful gold paper crown and a card, a gift card. "Look inside, there is a card, George," said the animals. George put on the crown and opened the cards. This is the card. This is what it looks like. "You gave your scarf to a cold giraffe. Your shirt's on a boat as a sail for a goat. Your shoe is a house for a little white mouse. One of your socks is a bed for a fox. Your belt helped a dog who was crossing a bog. So here is a very fine crown to go with the sandals and the gown for the kindest giant in town." And that's the end of the book. So, well, what can you see? What do you think about the story? What happened at the end? All the animals that he found in the way home, all the animals that he had helped, then made a gift for the giant. So, you think they were happy? Do you think they made something good for the giant, for George? Do you think George was expecting something when he gave all his clothes to these animals? I want you to make a list with all the animals that appear in the story and all the clothes that appear in the story. And you have to match. For example, the tie was for the giraffe, right? Let's see. Yes, the tie was for the giraffe. Then, the shirts was for the goats. So that's what you have to do, okay? Write the clothes and the animals. Bueno chicos, pues este es el final del vídeo. Si queréis mandarme una foto de la actividad en el portfolio del cuento, podéis mandármela por email, por Sayenet, como los papás prefieran. Y bueno, también deciros que me ha encantado todos los mensajes que me habéis mandado algunos, me encanta saber de vosotros, me encanta que me manden fotos, vídeos de todo lo que estáis haciendo. Estoy muy contenta y estoy muy orgullosa porque sé que os estáis portando muy bien y que estáis trabajando un montón. Así que seguid así. Y yo pues intentaré hacer más vídeos. Voy a hacer otro vídeo de otro libro también que me encanta, que es de la misma autora, de Julia Donaldson, y espero que os guste muchísimo. Así que nos vemos en el próximo vídeo. Un beso. Adiós.